Good morning. My name is Leslie Harris. I am chairman of the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel for the Boston Police. I would like to introduce the other commissioners, Julian Mundell, Allison Cartwright.
Good morning.
Christina Miller.
Good morning.
Is Jessie on?
She is not on just yet.
Okay. I would like to ask the interpreters to introduce themselves for the public. Start with the American Sign Language.
It will be Deborah Martinez and Lucy Annette.
Thank you. Okay, who else do we have? We have the Spanish interpreters.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. My name is Gabriela Herrera. I'm going to be interpreting this morning with Erica Perez. Thank you.
And the Cantonese interpreters, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna. I'll be a Cantonese interpreter for the meeting today. Sandra and I will be working on this together. She will be also the interpreter. 大家好，我 Anna。今日我同 Sandra 咧會係你嘅廣東話同聲翻譯員。陣間見到地球嘅時候咧，記得撳個圖標揀廣東話，咁就去到廣東話嘅頻道噶啦。用手機嘅話咧，撳個3個點就揀更多，亦都去到廣東話嘅翻譯頻道。一陣間見。Thank you so much.
The Vietnamese interpreter. You're muted.
Good morning. My name is Yuen Triệu. I'm Vietnamese interpreter. I and Mỹ Hạnh will be the interpreter for the meeting today. Xin chào quý vị, tôi là Yuen Triệu. Tôi sẽ là thông dịch cho các anh chị trong buổi hôm nay. Xin chọn vào cái thanh và bấm vào ngôn ngữ tiếng Việt. Chúng tôi sẽ cung cấp thông dịch liên tục cho các anh chị. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Mandarin interpreter, please.
Thank you. My name is Tina. Terry, my partner, will be interpreting with me for this session. 大家好，我是您的普通话翻译。我们的同传搭档 Terry 和我会半个小时一换，然后一会为您的会议做同传翻译。一会儿他们开启了这个同传的这个地球仪之后，欢迎您点击选择我们的普通话。如果您是用手机或者是 iPad 平板上线的话，请你点击你的右下角的3个点，然后选择我们的频道。我们一会儿见，祝您今天过得愉快。Thank you.
Thank you. And the Haitian Creole interpreter, please.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia and I'll be interpreting with Sadoc today. Bonjour, non pas c'est Cynthia et m'a interprété ensemble avec Sadoc matin pour interprétation créole haïtien. Allez dans contrôle bar, dans partie en bas écran et puis cliquez sur interprétation. Après ça, cliquez sur langue que vous avez entendu. Kounyea ou gain accès à réunion en créole haïtien. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I get all of the interpreters? All right. First order of business will be the approval of the minutes from April 28th, 2022. May I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
So moved.
And a second?
So moved.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from Thursday, June 16, 2022. Oh, that's today. I'm sorry. April 28th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
Chair, I will be abstaining as I was not present.
Yes, ma'am. One abstention. I'm sorry. One order of business before we start our panel discussion. This is a public meeting. It is being recorded. The panel cannot accept questions from the public.
Chúng tôi sẽ không có nhận được những cái bình luận góp ý của chúng ngày hôm
Please
nay nhé.
submit any questions to the chat.
Nếu mà
for
có
future
câu hỏi nào
meetings. It must be on the agenda prior to the meeting. So we will now move to our panel discussion on case review. Who will be leading the discussion?
I can start, Your Honor. So this was brought forward. I believe it open for the members of the panel to ask questions. There were questions that were asked after the last meeting and at the retreat that you all attended about how your meetings would be conducted, the expectations of the members. And so this is a meeting for that. And because it is about board structure, it is a public meeting. And that's the reason why this meeting is happening in public. And so I'm available to answer questions that you may have. I'm happy to discuss any questions that you may have outstanding. I also will have my staff drop in. You've received it before, but I'm happy to drop in again the ordinance that just gives out information about the expectations of the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel.
Thank you. I will add a few comments and then we'll open up to the other members. We can only discuss cases that are on the agenda. We cannot discuss any case that is not before the panel. There are a number of cases that have made it into the public eye. If it is not presented to the panel, we cannot discuss those cases. So I will open up for questions from the other members.
So I guess one of the questions that I had is, where do we stand currently as far as when we're going to start reviewing some cases?
So you will have your first meeting is set for July 21st. So you have cases presented to you on that date. Prior to that date, you will get the notice we publicly noted with, we will get case numbers of, that will be publicly noted. We all have case numbers based on our system here, our internal system of how cases are logged. You will get those cases presented to you on July 1st. So this is the things that we discussed at the meeting. Cases are noted to you of, in case online publicly, it just has a number. With you in executive session, you will have the name and of both the complainant and the police officer.
And you said on July 1st, we're receiving some information. What are we receiving?
So you won't be receiving any information on July 1st. On July 21st is your meeting. So on July 21st is when you get a packet of all the information with the case information.
Okay.
Is there an sorry, I hope you won't see me. This is Jassy. Is there an expected number of cases now, or we just find that out on July 21st?
So there is, I don't have a case number for you now. So we're not going to talk about cases for July 21st today, because those are not part of the agenda. So we cannot talk about anything for July 21st today. So this is just more about the format of how you all are set up. So on July 21st, we can talk about July 21st.
So I think just for clarity's sake, we will receive the information, and if we could just get confirmation, we'll receive the information about the cases that we will be discussing on the 21st that morning, read the packets, and then what will the rest of that process look like? after we review the packets, then right, like what will we do with that information amongst ourselves as the board?
Okay, so the things that you all can do is you deliberate and you make one of the your three findings that you can make. So you can agree with the internal affairs findings, you can disagree with the internal affairs findings, or you can refer the case back to the internal affairs department division for further investigation or action.
Are we allowed to request more information from internal affairs if we find that we don't have enough information to make a decision?
So yes, so that's when you refer it back to action or action. So that would be C.
And when we if we were to send a case back for more action, are we allowed to state what action we feel is missing or could help us in making a determination?
Yes, so according to, I'm just going through your duties. So let me ask my staff to send to you, drop into the chat the document I sent to them so that you all can look along on this document too. You all may still have it. It is your, I tried to, in your training, you all received your powers and duties of the internal affairs. So I'm just reading along through that. So in the section I just read to you, Judge Harris, is section 1216.15 C subsection 2, where it just, C subsection 1, sorry. It just tells you what they are, what your findings will be. As far as if you disagree, it's in the same one. So if you disagree, it will be referred to the commissioner, the police commissioner. And basically the commissioner can determine if they feel it was fairly investigated thoroughly, and then they have to notify you of what they believe it should be, how they feel about it as well. So it leads to a communication between them.
I'm sorry, Madam Executive Director, can you please tell me what that section was again?
It's section 1216.15, 12-16.15 IAOP review process, subsection C, subsection C, and that goes through for all cases once received by IAOP. The review process is as follows, and it lists out everything.
Thank you.
On that topic, I have a question concerning should we want additional information? Is the only avenue to get that information from requesting that from the Internal Affairs Division of the Boston Police Department, or can we get information from other sources, for example, through an OPAT investigator or through other forms of request?
So based on the ordinance, it would just be through the police commissioner, through the IAD department. Okay. Based on subsection C, you would request it through the police commissioner, who would themselves review it. But it does say, it does say that you can ask OPAT staff to look at different avenues. So I believe that it's kind of, you could do both. So it's something that we could look at as well to find out if there's more information that we can look at. I look at your role as really a step above just a quality check. It's looking at what could have done, what we could do better. So when we get files in for an appeal, Our investigators do thoroughly look at the case and see what, we will submit to you a summary. So I think we should just take one quick step back. So when appeals come into our office, so you're gonna get appeals and you get the random cases that will come in through internal affairs. So you get both, and there's some that are just mandated that you get. So when these come into our office, our intake workers, if it's a direct appeal, our intake worker will contact the appellant and get all of their contact information to hear what they believe happened in their case. But then our investigators will also look at it. I have a conversation, we meet weekly, and we just look over to see what internal affairs did or did not do in their investigation. So we look over it for the fairness and the thoroughness of their investigation. So we do the first look at the fairness and thoroughness, looking at their rules and their regulations that they applied. So when they give their decision, and they look and they'll say what they, meaning the Boston Police Department Internal Affairs Division, they will give a decision on their findings, why they did not sustain a complaint. We will look to see if we come to the same conclusion, or did they go out, did they talk to enough people, did they not talk to enough people? We have that will all be given to you in our summary so that you will have a comparison. So you're not just getting files from BPD. So I don't want you to think that we're just giving you a file from BPD for you just to look over and make a decision. We've already done that legwork before you come into your meeting. So you've already are going to see what we believe was done or not done, or more could have been done, more should have been done, or if everything was done. So that work is going to be done and it will be presented to you in a summary at your meetings. And if we believe that there should have been more done, you will see that. And so we'll give you a little heads up on that in the start of your meetings. Is that helpful?
Thank you.
Yes, that's very helpful. And it seems that I think the additional information part also might depend on what the nature of that information is. That might adjust who we are requesting that from. But I hear that the case will be investigated before we get it by OPAT, which is very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. So you'll see inside, I know this seems, and may just be me and my age, but this seems very small. So if my staff hasn't done it yet, I can't tell from the chat really. I want you to drop it, not just show it on the screen, but really drop it into the link so that members of the panel, and it should be able to go to the chat. You just change it from host and panelists to everyone option, so everyone can see it. And I can do it, I will drop it in. I can do it. But just dropped in the whole, what's required of IAOP. But you can also see here that there is a section in here that just defines like what we are as staff required to do. So we're required to maintain all of these files that we receive from the Boston Police Department. There is confidential information in here as well as Quarry information. So for background information, myself, the deputy director, one of our intake worker, and our two investigators have all gone through the process to be Quarry certified. So there is Quarry information that's in here that we are not allowed to share with everyone. And this is why you'll get a lot of information in executive session that we will have to take out prior to showing the panel members. And that's why you get a lot of the stuff in summary form. But we will make sure that you get access to a lot of this information. And it's why we need to do a big portion of this investigation so that we are not giving you giving you protected information, but giving you information that will be, will give you a good picture of what's going on without giving you fully protected information that we may receive I've reviewed enough of these files. There's not a lot of Quarry protected information in there, but there's enough that we will have to redact some information prior to giving it to you. We also have to notify the police officer that we are going to be reviewing their case in front of you. So this is, again, why you won't have anything on July 1st, but you will have information, and it will be done. All information about personnel matters are handled in executive session, but you will get this information in advance. You won't get this information in advance, you'll get it on the day of, but what it will be posted is the number that is assigned internally for these cases. And I don't have an exact number, how many cases it will be, but it will be posted. We do try to post not a day before 48 hours. We do try to post publicly, note our meetings at least 2 weeks in advance. So you will know how many cases you'll be reviewing at least 2 weeks in advance. And we will try to, I believe we're trying to keep them to it, less than 10. And that's with being more simpler than others so that we can keep it in a reason. We know you can get it done in that time frame that we set up for you.
And I think we had talked about a little bit about the backlog and then also the new cases coming in. As far as have we decided what the process will be as far as how many older cases and how many newer cases we're reviewing, or what that process looks like?
Yes, so what we talked about before, we're still going to do, we're going to always present older cases and give you newer cases. So I will also say that the older cases are really random cases. So there's a number of older cases, but they're random, so they're not direct appeals. So there's not a lot of cases that are outstanding. They're really cases that were just randomly pulled because of the mandates that were for the former co-op, which is now IAOP. So those cases, we should be able to get through quickly. And that's just pulling them starting from the old, but also keeping current by pulling in from the old and also keeping current with the new so that we can pull them in. I'm going to switch over and just let you know that while this doesn't really apply to you all because it's not new cases, the Post Commission did pass a regulation that says that we have 90 days in order to complete all investigations. And even though we are not a law enforcement body, we do hold ourselves accountable as much as we are saying we want to hold the Boston Police Department accountable. So we're functioning in that same time frame, which means that we will be moving cases and moving things along quicker. So we won't be holding these cases for a lengthy period of time. We are trying to move everything along. So, it's part of why we have, these set schedules already. We know that we're meeting on July 1st. Our schedule for you all for the rest of the year. We'll keep moving these cases along. So we are hopeful that we will be able to get through these, hopefully, in relatively short order to get everything on track.
When we say that we're getting older cases, is there a time limit as to how far back you can go with older cases? For instance, if there was a case from 2015 or so, are we allowed to still look at that, or is there a date?
I mean, because they appealed in the time frame of 14 days that they were given, they can still be looked at. And so it's unfair. It's not fair to them. We were in existence in 2015, 2016. I think the oldest case is 2016, 2017. And they were underneath the mandate of the co-op, which was completely different than what IAOPs, well, not completely different, but it's different than the setup of the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel. The difference between co-op and IAOP was individuals would get boxes of cases. Members of this board actually were appointed to serve on IAOP, where you were just expecting to have cases sent to you, and you would review these cases at your leisure and determine based on a set of standards if Internal Affairs Division had done their job in governance and fairness. It did not meet regularly in this capacity as you all are meeting. So there's so many different standards now than there was before. And this will work more effectively because you are meeting on a certain date, certain every quarter, and we're moving things along. So they did, the person who appealed in the right time frame. So they have a right to know if their case was thoroughly looked at and in fairness. And in fairness, with the person who gave their decision is most likely not even the same person inside of their internal affairs division from 5-6 years ago. Their policy may be changed, I'm not sure. So we will be looking at them with fresh eyes and really helping to change the policies and procedures if anything has changed there. So very hopeful that we can do some good work on this and give people resolutions to their appeals sooner rather than later. We have gotten calls from those who have been waiting, and they're very understanding, and they're hopeful to get a decision from this body.
I just want to ask, I know it's been said, but more so confirm that when the request is for more information or to go back or something is a miss that needs further review, I can then set up another scheduled time when that information is received to review and go over. And like the confirmation part is there's not a limit on setting that. I get that we wouldn't wait until the next quarter when there's a meeting set and more cases to be reviewed, then we're getting information from past review that gets added on, and you sort of get stuck in this instead of ending things and moving forward.
So as I've said to you and other board members before, we have a board meeting every month between the IAOP CRB and the OPAT Commission. So depending on when the information is received and the availability, we are happy to add in an extra date. This meeting is an extra date, so we will add it in. If you ask someone asked for it, so we added it in. So we do add in. We had an OPAT Commission meeting 2 days ago, and 2 days later we're having the IAOP meeting so that we can address matters. We'll add it in as soon as the information is received. The biggest issue we will have is just waiting to see when the information is received.
Yeah, okay, that was my understanding. I just wanted to confirm.
As soon as the information is received, we would let your chair know that the information is received. And then what we did, similar to how we got this meeting, you would get an email saying, is this date available to you? And we usually give you the date that's available on our calendar. And then as long as there's a majority of you available, and in your case, in order to vote on something, you would need 3 members to be available. And so as long as 3 members are available, then you can go ahead and have that meeting.
And as far as we talked a little bit about the decision-making process, so, when we're reviewing the case, we talked about the process of reviewing the case, the information, the summaries that we'll receive. Once we've reviewed that information, is the expectation that we would come back into a public meeting and deliberate on the issues that we see and then have a vote at that point in time?
So no, the way that I anticipate your meeting structure being is that you would you would open up similar to what you did today. I would do a director's report, and you would talk about any other matters that you may have pending. So if it's something else that you wanted to raise, if there's anything else related to your board that you wanted to raise. So in the section that we had last meeting where it's like any other matters, that would be before, and then you would vote to go into executive session and then also close the meeting in executive session. You don't have a mandate to vote in public. The Civilian Review Board has a mandate to vote in public. So you could close from executive session.
And also logistically, has the city, I know that right now we can still have meetings virtually. Has there been additional guidance as to how long that's been extended?
No, so right now, your meeting in July is slated to be the last meeting that will be virtual. The next one, I believe, is in September. And I think that's when it ends. So I haven't heard that it's been extended, but we will keep you updated. If it's not been extended, then I will see you all back here, and you can see that we have furniture and stuff from the last time I saw you all. We have furniture. So slowly, hopefully we have our conference tables by then. But we do have furniture and desks now and chairs. So we have all intentions of having everybody in public, be in person in September. But we have not heard or some hybrid option. We haven't heard how it's going to be. I know that there is a lot of people who prefer that we still continue to have some virtual. So we have been trying to figure out and actually preparing to do some form of hybrid option that still allows the public to still participate in a virtual space so that we can continue to engage the community in this important work from any space that they can participate in, and that includes online. But I have not heard that there is an extension as of yet, so board members should be prepared to be in person at after the summer.
Madam Executive Director, I have the next meeting after July is October 20th.
Oh, yeah, October.
Okay. And I also have a logistical question about if we're going to meet virtually, how will we receive our packets?
So I would do it, so if we do it virtually, it would be an executive session, so I can share it online. We would just do it more of a, I can share it with you in the chat, well, online. We have to figure that out. I mean, sharing the screen. We have to figure it out because we have a mandate. Part of our mandate says we cannot duplicate records. This is why I can't send it out. We've talked about this. It says I can't duplicate the documents, and so we're trying to figure that all out. How do we do that when we, by ordinance, cannot duplicate records? So
Is it
So we would all have,
for,
sorry.
go ahead, Allison.
oh, okay. So we would all be looking at the same thing at the same time, regardless of how quickly or slowly we read. I'm just trying to get an understanding.
We're
Be in person to physically look.
Yeah, so we're still trying to figure that all out because of the ordinance saying that we cannot duplicate records.
Is it possible for panel members to come and read it in the office?
That may be what we have to do, and we just have to set it up for that. So this is why I am hopeful that we are in person because we talked about having the panel books that we can just store here, and it's just easier. But knowing that we have to keep things and not duplicate, it just makes it difficult for us.
So I think that was actually partially the reason why I had asked that question about the July meeting. So would it be actually possible if the panel is comfortable to just have the panel there in person for that meetings to review? So for that day, since we're going to be reviewing cases, it might make sense to do that. I don't know.
My understanding is that it was in person. I don't know if I missed that.
That's what I thought. And also, Madam Executive Director, can we, when you say you cannot duplicate, I understand you can't duplicate for us to take with us, but if we were all in person, would we each then get our own copy just in executive session to look at then and there, or are we passing the paper around, the files around? I'm just trying to understand.
So it just, it's just very It just says that you can, it just says you can review them, but we can't duplicate or make available to public. So I'm working on an answer for that.
And so that's my suggestion, is that we be allowed to come in prior to the meeting so that, you know, in a staggered manner, we can each come in and read it and do our reading so that we're not held up by me being a slow reader and everyone else is fast. You know, we can have read it ahead of time.
So I would defer certainly to Madam Executive Director and Your Honor as well. But my understanding is, for example, if we take an example of a protective order that prevents counsel from duplicating a particular record, you could still make a copy for the defense team. You know, so it seems like it would be permissible to have us each have our own individual packages to review an executive session, as long as they're returned back and they're not left outside of the conference room. So that was my reading on it. I'm not sure if people disagree with that, but I think it would just be efficient to have that.
Yes, my read is that you can have a packet and that we can take it back from you. And I think this is what we talked about at the training, is that I would make a board packet for you that would include the summary and the documents that had redactions in them where there was Quarry protected information, and then I would take those documents back. I think the question then came up, if you did send something back to the police commissioner, would you be able to get those packets back? Because we talked about the shredding situation, all that. But I talked to you and I said we would just hold on to them. And if you had notes, there was I think, Jossie, you asked this question about what if I had notes and I wanted to keep my notes. We would just hold on to them until your next meeting so that you wouldn't lose your place in your notes. But then after that, we would obviously not be able to keep them because we cannot duplicate them for public. So let me, if you look underneath that same section we're reading underneath, it's section 7. It just says that we will maintain all case files for you all. And that the case files will be treated as confidential and will be reviewed by us and you only. And that you are, except as required by law, such files will not be duplicated or available for inspection by public, and OPAT staff has to return the files to IAD within 14 days after a final determination. So this is where things get a little complicated, because this read doesn't even, it's to your point, Julian, I read it the way you do, but at the same time, this kind of says, it doesn't even say that I can make copies for you all. It just says you're looking at that one file and that you all are to look at that one file. And then when you're done with it, you bring it back. It's the way it reads. It's like, don't duplicate anything. You all look at this file and when you're done, bring it back to IAD. I understand, Allison. I know Allison served on the task force, and I know this is not your intent either. But that's how it reads, right? So we have this, and IAOP can look at files. CRB is not even allowed to look at files. So there's these complications between the boards as well. So this is where we are at in this. And this is why you go into exec session, because you can't, can you go back? I don't know why we came to this session, this slide. But if we could, like, honestly figure out a good way of doing this, and this is why I thought that us having the books would be good, so that you could have your own book, and then I can take it back from you, because I do believe that you should be able to see it and read it at your own pace. We do have a file room dedicated only to DPD that only the deputy and myself are allowed access to. So there's a sign in and sign out staff that they have to come to. So there's a whole process to get to DPD files. I would say, again, based on this read, we're not even to duplicate it for books, but I think that as a practicing attorney in former life, Allison, Julian, like in Judge, I think would be, as chair, I think you can probably make an assessment as well that this would, to me, give way, Christina, I don't know if you have a different opinion. I think this gives way to making duplicates and then just collecting them back. I don't see any other way that this would be effective.
You know, in order for us to be efficient, we need to be able to read things ahead of time and still be able to have our meetings and do something. Otherwise, we're reading, we're not absorbing necessarily, and we're trying to make decisions without knowing the full material. And I just find that difficult. So we need to look at this. Maybe when we have our OPAT commission meeting, we can talk more about how we can work out the details. But I think the simplest way is to have it there until we work out the details, have it there and have panel members have access to it by coming into the office to read it. And we can work from there and go forward.
Yeah, the only concern I have with that is that we don't have a reading room for panel members to come in to do this. And like, I don't know where we would do this at. This is, so I think this is a fuller conversation. We do have board meetings every month. We have intakes that happen. So it's not like this is the only board we have. We have 2 other boards. We do have intakes that go on, there's other meetings that go on. And so this is the reason why when we talked about this board, we talked about the meetings being 10 to 2, so that it did allow for you to have these periods of reading the material beforehand. This was, the whole discussion was like, you're gonna need time to read the material about what's coming. They're not, I will tell you, you're not reading boxes of material. The case files are not like 60, 70 pages. We would not do that to you. If there was a file that was 60 or 70 pages, you may have 2 cases on that day or something. I would never put something before you that is going to take you that long. I'm very mindful of how you would have cases before you. But this is, I also want the panel to be also aware that there are other boards and other panels and other business besides this panel going on during the month. So we would have to figure out how this works.
And I think, I don't know if we've addressed it. There's some confusion as to if we're able to have the July 21st meeting in person, or does it have to be virtual? Just because, I mean, if it's gonna be 10 to 2, that's a tough Zoom meeting.
Well, it's not, so when we originally talked about going forward, so July 21st starts at 11. So that's just going forward, just the grand scheme of meetings. Once everything starts rolling, the time your calendar should just be available from 10 to 2. Mm-hmm. I am not saying that you have it until then. So you can be in person on July 22nd, and that's fine. We have cameras set up for us to still have the virtual, whatever the case may be, July 21st. What I am saying is for us to, what we've envisioned here is that we have these meetings for all OPAT meetings, the 2 boards, that they would be a lengthier meeting because of the time frame that it would take for you to read. Not that you have to share files and go from one person to the other, but just because you need to read before the meeting. Now, as far as coming in advance, it just gets trickier because they are protected files. We are responsible for them as staff. And that means I need to assign staff to you all. It means I have to, like, and again, only John and I, my deputy, have access to these files. So it's not like you can just show up and say, I'm in Roxbury, I'm gonna stop in and read these files because I have time. That's not how it works. I would have to be available or John to open the door to sign the files out and be available. No one else can get access to the files. There's a lot more to this than what everyone's saying, but we had allocated 10 to 2 going forward as timeframes so that there is reading that is going on prior to you making decisions. But again, I've not seen a file that is thick, and like the pages that I've seen are no more than maybe 10, 15. John is on this webinar as well. He can jump in and give his opinion, but I have not seen that I reviewed these lengthy ones that cannot be done. That would cause like angst of I have so much reading to do and so much to absorb in a short period of time. I don't know. So before I go on, my investigators are on as well. So I don't know if one of them, you all, like, if they want to just chime in because they've been looking at these files. But Hell or Tosbury, one of y'all want to make yourselves, Ben, can you unmute them? So they can just give their opinion on an average of what the files look like.
Stephanie, Mikkel and Tostri aren't on right now, but I can go and grab them so they can answer this question.
Okay. Wait, is John on?
He was on previously. I think he's logged off. I can ask him to jump on very quickly.
I can just have one of them walk into my office right now.
Okay.
Thanks. So I'll get an answer for you because they live with these files more than I do. I want to give you all some ease about what the files look like because I know I would have a little bit of all my accuracy files, but I think it would be helpful for you to get that.
And when you're referring to the files, you're referring to the files that your staff has reviewed or what we're reviewing? Because I know we're reviewing summary. So presumably if it's a 60-page file, we might review a smaller amount of that. Is that correct?
You're welcome, Tommy. So you would review, you have access to review the whole thing, just redaction. So you can pull a chair up, Tostri. So Tostri is one of my investigators. Tostri, this is the Internal Affairs Oversight panel. You met Tostri before. So we're talking about the appeal files that you received from BPD. And the files are not thick that we've received so far, right? They're not.
Some of the files that we have received are thick.
Question. Like how many pages do you think they have?
So some of them have been like really small, and then there's been a few, like maybe like 2, maybe 3 cases where the file was like where it could all fit in one folder, but it was about at least 40 pages max.
Yeah. So 40 pages max comparative, like, so they're not like 300 pages or 200 pages. So we just wanted to know if they were thick or not. So I'm just trying to determine whether or not we would have, so in those cases when we have thicker files, so a 40-page file, when that was up for review, we wouldn't give you like 2 of those cases or 3 of those cases, right? And if they were something, unless they were very simple cases, but I doubt if a 40-page case is a simple case. So in those cases, we would probably do either intent summaries or ask you in advance meeting before, do you all want to get through, do we do 2 of those only and then some like 2-page simple ones to get through? So we would really go through how would you want to go through those. So, but that would require, but you would get summaries with all of those. So the thick of the file does not mean you're reading through all the file, you will get a summary. So Tostri is one of the investigators who will be writing all the summaries for you. And don't worry, I'm training him how to write summaries. So, and they've done a great job so far writing all the summaries, using a lot of the legal ease that I've learned over the years. So it's really good about the facts and who's involved. And they do go out to the community and look at, in their investigations, they've looked at what the cross sections are of the street. So talking to different people, just trying to, get more of that information that you were looking at. But they're in another meeting, so I'm gonna let you go on to the other meeting. Thank you. Is that helpful to you all at all in like trying to figure out how your meetings would be and hopefully lessening and stress you out at your meetings?
I think one of the things that's going to happen is that on July 21st, we'll come up with new questions because we'll get a feel for what's going on.
So,
and we'll be
July 21st, the first one, similar to what happened at CRB. If anyone watched the CRB, we had 2 cases presented to them. We would never present you with a whole bunch on your first time around. So similar to what we're going to do with CRB, just to give you a heads up, we are probably going to present you with like 2, 3 simple cases, just so that you can get an idea of what this looks like. We're not going to throw a whole bunch of cases at you.
My concern is time frames. If we're going slow and we have a number of cases, won't we continue to get a backlog?
No, we don't have a lot of new cases.
Okay.
And then on the other end of that, it's better for you to have a few cases in the front so that you know what you're looking at. And then at the October meeting, if you're comfortable with everything that happened in July, I'd rather give you 2 or 3 in July and then give you a lot more in October.
I agree with that.
Because then you can have all these questions. We'll spend the whole time doing this and doing the questions, and then we can go from there. But I think it's better for you just to see them and know what they are, because you may, if we put all of them on, we put too many on the agenda and you don't get through them, you've also noticed the officers to be there, because they have a right to be there because you're talking about their personnel file, their case, and you don't get to them. And it's fine, but we have to notice everyone. It's easier for you to have these conversations, know what's going on with this smaller file case, and then you can get larger cases. If you feel good, I'll give you 10, 15 come October. Get halfway through, and then, you can get all the backlog done.
Okay. Are there other questions?
So I do think it poses quite the challenge to read, contemplate, decide all in one day for certain cases, right? I'm sure there are certain cases that is quite doable. And I understand we're going to have to feel that out. I would like to see if there's a way we could have that regulation revised so that we could at least get a summary that is redacted with no personal identifying information, that could be duplicated and provided before the day. I fully understand we would never want to have public identifying information in I wouldn't want it in my possession just in case, it was in my car and it gets stolen. I don't know, right? There's all sorts of things that could potentially happen. But I don't see the issue with a summary. And I understand you're just abiding by the regulation that was given to you. And I fully understand that, and you're complying with it quite well and working within its confines. But if there is a way we could, in the long term, get that revised so that at least we could get a redacted summary of the investigative action that we will get that day, with no personal identifying information, everything redacted, every person as a number, no names, no addresses. I think that would be a good goal in the long term. I would also favor an in-person meeting in July and going towards the future for now to work in the confines of the regulations and the rules as we've been given them. The one thing I see that's missing that I would be interested in is what is the standard? So I see that we have the nature of what we need to find is that the investigation was thorough, that the investigation and the finding was fair, right? Those are our two primary things to find. But is it by, I mean, I'm a lawyer, right? So is it by clear and convincing evidence? Is it a reasonable certainty? Is it abuse of discretion? Like, what is sort of the level of that finding? And maybe that's something we need to sort of personally contemplate. But I would, you know, is it beyond a reasonable doubt, right? You know, what is sort of the level of that finding? Would be my one question that I understand probably can't be answered today. But I just want to raise it so that we can get some sort of clarity on that.
I think that's a great question, and one that we should get from the Internal Affairs Department. I don't believe it's addressed in the ordinance. It doesn't give us the standard. Such an attorney. It's not raised in, but I do, I question whether or not I do have the rules up all the time. So I'm sorry, I keep the rules up for BPD on my screen. So I question whether or not it's listed on their website as their standard. I don't know, but I will ask if what standard they, it doesn't really say right off. I just clicked on the first thing and it said jurisdiction, but it doesn't give me a quick answer of what their rules, conduct, rights, and responsibility.
I believe it's preponderance of the evidence, but you know, don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is.
So that's for their finding, you know, what should it be the same for ours?
Well, you're reviewing their findings, so I think that you wouldn't you use the same standard if you're reviewing their findings? Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, here's the good thing. This is the foundation, the beginning of something. So there,
Yes.
you can set it. And that's how I look at my office, right? It's something new. It's if it's not there and it needs to be defined, some things, if it's not overstepping, it can be defined. It's not really clear. It doesn't specifically say preponderance of the evidence. I guess you would have to look at case law to see what has been applied, but it's not specifically stated in their rules.
Now, one other question I have, can the panel be Quarry certified?
Yes, and I fought against it. So the reason why I fought against it, there was a question about having all board members certified. The board members are to be members of the public, and right now we do have a large makeup on this panel of attorneys. I think 4 or 5 of you are attorneys, but that can switch in the future. And I didn't want to, I worry about setting a precedent that would preclude other members from the public from ever being able to serve on this panel because they would not meet the standards to be fully certified. It's not a state certification, it's a federal certification. And so I don't want the unintended consequences of having this board as it's currently situated certified would preclude members that should serve on this panel from being certified in the future. So if I said yes to you all, and then someone else who could be on this panel in the future who has a history would not be able to serve. And so I had a very nice lengthy, months-long conversation with members of Boston Police Department about not having members of boards certified, because it was, and I won't speak for Allison and company, but I can almost speak for them and say that I believe that the point of creating these boards was for
We lost your voice.
oh, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. So I believe for people, members of this board, be able to serve that have been impacted by their encounters with the police, and by having people serve on this board who have not, having people get Quarry certified now as it's currently situated, it would preclude that from happening. It would only allow certain people to serve on this board. And
Yes, I think that's very thoughtful. So I have no problems with it. I understand.
so
And I do agree with you.
yeah, it was a lengthy conversation, I will say that, but yeah, sorry. And I know some of you are probably already Quarry certified and other things, or know that you can meet it, but I really wanted to make sure, again, this is foundation. I wanted to think about the future of the board years from now.
Yes, ma'am. Are there other questions? Madam Director, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we'll get through this. I'm happy to have you all back here on the 21st so you can see how we look different. So bring it, whatever you all want, we're here to be of service. So if you all want to be here on the 21st, we are happy to have you here on the 21st. Things will look a little different. I think we'll even have some extra doors here on the 21st. We should have furniture. We should have our conference tables on the 21st. And we should have the equipment we need in order to make sure that we still are able to offer some hybrid options for the public.
Now, while that is not on the agenda, can we agree at this point to do it in person, or does it have to be on the agenda?
No, that doesn't have to be on the agenda. We can just say that it's going to be in person.
Is there any objection to us meeting in person on July 21st? Then we will meet in.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have no objection. That would be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we should meet in person on July 21st at your office, 2001 Washington, 2201.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second,
that motion.
all those in favor, please.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, Madam Director, and thank you all panel members for being present. And we look forward to seeing you on the 21st.
Thank you all. Have a good one. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.